I'm really a new father, precious father in this room right now. So I happened to be in the room and I saw her come out. It was a normal delivery. And when she came out, they put her in that small little tray, and the nurse was supposed to give her an injection, vitamin K. And when the nurse took out the needle and the syringe to inject her, she held it, and in the process, injured herself. Now, immediately I saw that, I told myself, wow, you are truly the daughter of your father. She's truly the daughter of her father because part of what I do, besides practicing law, is activism. And with that fist, I knew that definitely this girl is going to be an activist as well. Now, how many of you here consider yourselves as activists? Great. I'm sure you all have your individual stories of how you became activists. And how many of you live in societies or are familiar with societies where when you speak truth to the elderly or when you point out the errors of an elderly person, you are deemed as arrogant? How many of you can relate to that? Okay, good. Well, the Ghanaian society is nothing different from what you know. And so my first stint at activism happened when I was a teenager. I had a teacher who comes to class and all he does was crack jokes. Not funny jokes too. And so one day when he went on and on about his jokes, I interrupted nicely and with a question just to bring him back on track. Obviously he felt offended by that, called me up front to beat me up. And I said no. When I refused to take the beatings, he started beating me indiscriminately. So I left the class and went straight to report him to the headmaster. Now, as a Ghanaian society, the headmaster said that I was insubordinate to the teacher, and therefore they stripped me of my position as a school prefect. Fine. I got home, reported the matter. My parents wouldn't even hear any of it. I should have just taken the beatings. I said, no, that was wrong. So that was my first stint at activism as a teenager. And then in the university, I happened to get myself into student politics. And as a student politician, I became the Legal Affairs Commissioner, such a huge name for a small title, of the Student Representative Council. And at the time, the university authorities passed a directive that if any student or a group of students wanted to go on a protest against university policies or decisions, what have you, you needed clearance from the administration. Now, with my basic knowledge in constitutional law, I wrote a very nice love letter to the university authorities and told them that, look, what you have done is unconstitutional. So we went back and forth, meetings here and there, and eventually they agreed and they scrapped that policy. Good. Now, after that came the big one. I've been to law school, I've just come out fresh, 26 years old. And you monitor social media, a lot of people, Ghanaians, were complaining about the status quo in this country. A lot of them. And you could feel it. When you go out at the restaurant, at the chop bars, what have you, people discussing the issues. And yet, nobody was willing to do something about it. It seemed as if everybody was scared to speak out. And so one day, I was driving to court, and I had a bit of a challenge getting fuel for my car. And I had to call a client who runs a fuel station to get fuel. And I told myself, so what if I didn't know a client who runs a fuel station? How about the other people, other Ghanaians who equally need to get to work but do not have access to fuel? How about the trotro drivers, the taxi drivers? What will happen to them? So that afternoon, I decided that no, it's about time we send a message to government that, look, we won't settle for this. We are fed up with the situation. Get up and do something about it. So that afternoon, I put together a letter, and that is what culminated into the famous Occupy Flagstaff House protest. And yes, some of your lecturers here were there. Dr. A.C. Ansa, Madam Araba Botwe, they were present at the protest. And that protest changed the political landscape in this country. People that you would ordinarily not see out there on the streets protesting were out there. And I'm happy to say that the protest birthed two movements, the Occupy Ghana movement and the CitizenGhana movement. These two movements, till today, continue to demand accountability from leadership in this country. And they fight all threats to good governance, prime amongst them being corruption. And they do it through different ways, hitting the streets, going to court, a whole lot of different ways to fight good, to demand accountability from leadership. After Occupy Flagstaff House came the famous Doomsday Must Stop. We had a worsening power crisis in the country, and I'm sure many African countries experienced that as well. But for our situation, it was getting worse and worse. And so we, together with some celebrities, Yvonne Nelson and Sarkodie and others, we organized the Doomsday Must Stop Vigil. And that vigil saw an accelerated implementation of a temporary solution to that problem. And today, I mean, at first you'll be sitting here and the lights would all go off because of that. But today you're not experiencing that, okay? Can you imagine a world without activism? Can you imagine a world without activism? A world where only one opinion goes. Nobody can challenge it. No dissent. No opposition. That certainly would perpetuate injustice. It would widen the inequality gap. It would suppress freedoms, liberties, and rights. And it's a clear recipe for oppression. You and I agree that human development does not thrive well under these circumstances. Do you agree? Human development does not thrive well under oppression, does not thrive well under suppression of rights and freedoms. And so you ask yourself, why should you be bothered by these things? Today in this world, you have global issues such as terrorism, climate change, migration, people making perilous journeys across the Mediterranean, into Europe and elsewhere. And you sit in the comfort of your home and ask yourself, why should I be bothered? But I'm here to tell you this afternoon that you should be bothered because you're a part of the global community. Whatever happens a million miles away from you, indirectly or directly impacts you in some way. And even if it did not at all, you should be bothered and concerned because you are a part of humanity. And that gives you the obligation to be concerned about what happens elsewhere. In 2000, in the year 2000, about 189 countries met in New York, UN, and they decided to sign what is known as the Millennium Declaration. And from that declaration, there are the Millennium Development Goals. Now, essentially, the declaration was to the effect that these countries were creating a partnership to create an environment, both on the national level and the global level, in order to make development, create a conducive environment for human development and also to eliminate poverty. In 2015, they met again to review the targets. They saw that, look, we've made some progress, but there is still some more to be done. And so they came up with the Sustainable Development Goals. And these goals are meant to promote human development. Grow to your full capacity as a human being. It doesn't matter which corner of this world you find yourself in. And today I'm here to tell you that you have a role to play in the attainment or the achievement of these goals. You have a critical role to play in that. Don't think that you are too young to play that role. No, you are not. I organized a protest at the age of 26. Nothing stops you from picking an issue that you are passionate about and working at it. We don't all have to be activists. No, that's not what I'm saying. We don't all have to be activists. But in your own little corner, wherever you find yourself, pick an issue and work at it. That is what makes you a global citizen. And you'll be amazed to learn that the things that you do in your country has an impact elsewhere. In 2015, I attended a workshop on collective action movements in South Africa. And at a hotel, I met a young South African man, and immediately he saw me, he approached me. He introduced himself, and he identified me as an activist from Ghana. He mentioned the Occupy Flagstaff House protest. And he told me that he had watched those videos on YouTube, and he felt motivated and encouraged to participate in an upcoming protest in South Africa against some government policies. Activists do not hate governments. Please, that's not what I'm saying. We are only pushing for alternatives, better alternatives to problems that face humankind. And so I'll leave you with this, that never underestimate the amount of change you can cause in your own little corner by the things that you work on. It doesn't have to be big. Start little. Identify a particular goal, work at it, and be a global citizen. Get out there and cause change. Thank you.